Welcome to our podcast series, Identity Dialoguing with the Other and Myself. I'd like to welcome Navya, Sarah, and Fang Fang to our podcast on identity and the influence of social media. Hi. So I was wondering if you would like to just introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from and anything that you'd like to tell us. Navya, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi, my name is Navya. I'm from Nepal. I'm 28 years old and I'm currently a master's student in Paris and I study public health.
You go.
Paris.
Hi everyone. My name is Sara. I'm from Ecuador and I'm also a master's student. And yeah, I also identify as a cis woman.
Hi, I'm Fang Fang. I'm from Spain. I'm 31 years old, and I'm also currently a master student.
Great.
I'm delighted to be here right now.
I'm delighted you're here. So we're going to talk about social media, and I wanted to kind of start with a question about how many times a day approximately do you actually look at social media like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, any of these? Maybe Sarah, how many times a day do you look at it?
I don't even know. At least 10. At least even more, maybe more.
And you,
I'm
Nadia?
you know, I don't know. Yeah.
How
I
about
think, if you consider WhatsApp like a conversation thing,
true.
I would spend some hours, like 3 maybe. I used to spend more time before, but then after I have an app in my phone, which takes accountability of the hours, and then after I just realized that I use too much social medias. That's
Yeah.
how I just reduce it.
But Fang Fang, you don't have Instagram or Facebook or anything,
Facebook I
right?
do have, but
Uh-huh.
I don't have Instagram and all those things. I'm just
Yeah.
way too old.
you, Nadia?
I don't know if we should I consider WhatsApp social media, but I'm thinking more about like Instagram and Facebook. When I'm busy, like in school, I probably check it like 2 or 3 times a day. But when I'm off constantly, probably 10, more than 10 times a day if I'm like on break, which I'm not proud of, but that's
And is it something that you crave or feel like it's an automatic reflex to move towards the social media, actually click onto one or the other social media?
it's a reflex, and it's also like a quick fix for boredom, which is like instead of finding creative ways to occupy my time, it's like the easiest way to entertain yourself. And I think that's what makes
So do you
it.
think it kills creativity?
I think so. I think so because when I didn't have I'm just thinking of, I mean, maybe it's different when you're a kid and then you know, you have different ways of entertaining yourself. But I remember when I didn't have social media and I had like a flip phone where you couldn't use social media, I was spending so much time like journaling, writing, painting, coloring, talking to people. And I think that definitely, I can see that, you know, has lessened as I've used social media. I just don't do that much.
And do you look at social media first thing when you wake up in the morning? How much time is there between the time?
Not me, actually. That's something I've actually been good at not doing. I don't check it in the morning.
How
But
about you, Sarah?
I do check in the morning before going to bed. I'm like, oh, it's bad. Yeah, no, it's so bad.
How do you think social media actually shapes your identity, and how does that relate to some of your favorite types of content you might look at? Like, how do you think it shapes your identity?
I don't know if I have like a clear idea of what my identity is, if that makes sense. Like I'm trying to sort of discover my identity, and as I am doing this, I feel like of course social media has influenced my thoughts for sure. Like I follow a lot of like feminist influencers and whatever, or like body positivity. So I guess it helped me sort of how do you say that? Maybe like reassure my thoughts or like how I'm feeling.
So do you think it's self-reinforcing? Do you think what you see reinforces what you think, or do you think you think that because it's what you see on social media. Do you think there's some kind of constant confirmation bias happening, or that is constantly confirming you?
I think it's both ways, because you have the algorithm that is constantly giving you more and more information, but at the same time, you have your own thoughts and feelings, your friends and everything, and you just start following other people that kind of think the same as you. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think, Navya?
For me, I follow a mix of like people from Nepal who are on social media and like people from all over the world. And for me, I think I get like very different content from I don't know, different parts of the world, which I think is interesting and might be shaping I don't know, how I think in a way, in a positive way, might make me more critical of how people are thinking and communicating on social media. But I also see like a lot of overlap in that sense. I don't know. It helps me kind of identify like as it helps me, because I'm someone who's lived abroad for so long and also like really likes to kind of celebrate my culture and stuff. So it actually makes me kind of have like the entire world in like one platform. In that sense, I can like identify with a lot of people, like has given me that platform, I think, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Do you have anything?
What about you, Fang Fang?
Thinking that it's not only social medias, it's all the medias that shapes us every single day. Like you see an advert, you're walking on the street, and every single thing, there are so many stimulating things that just are shaping how you dress, how you want to dress, and how you want to be. So it's not only the social medias. Even if you don't have the social medias like before, you would have also the medias that is shaping you all the time.
All the time. There's something interesting in our last conversation. You talked about this yoga fit body that you see on social media. Do you recall when you said something about yoga fit? What was that expression that you made? You said
yoga body, like I don't.
Yoga fit, healthy.
Yeah. I think just having that be so common and dominating the social media platforms, for me, someone who likes to do yoga and is constantly, the algorithm is feeding me all this like content out on like amazing handstands and yoga fit body, when that's not really the case. When I go to a yoga studio, is people of all shapes and sizes and all kind of abilities doing yoga. Whereas one thing I was going to say about identity is that sometimes social media makes us think that that is the world, like what is visible to us on social media makes up the world, but it's really not the case. The world is much more diverse and vast, and there's a lot of different types of people who don't prefer to be on it, and we kind of forget about the world that exists beyond that. And our identity also is kind of, maybe we sometimes have a crisis because of that, because we can't really identify with one of these dominant sort of figures on social media that we often see. And they're very limited number of, I don't know, I think that's
But
the case, yeah.
at the same time, like people that are not in social media nowadays, they're missing this like popular culture, like pop culture information. Like if you're not in social media, you may not see like, oh, what this random actor is on, or like your friends, because you were posting stories and whatever.
Yeah.
So I heard a lot of people that are not in social media feel this feeling of, oh, I'm missing out. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Or having FOMO is like they think they're not, like that the same thing, that the world is not seeing them because they're not on social media. And
right. So it's something about being seen that's really quite important with regards to validating your identity as well. The fact that you're seen in social media. Do you think that's quite important?
Absolutely. For me, I think that's where my anxiety comes from. Like when I use social media is sometimes, or maybe this is the case for many people, with like all the likes and comments, it's like a kind of a measure of maybe being seen or being liked or being recognized or being celebrated. I don't know. I think people can use social media activity as measures of kind of success in the social sphere, when you know.
You had an interesting story about during COVID and your social media presence and what happened in the ebbs and flows. I wondered if you could tell listeners a little bit about what happened.
Yeah. So I had a lot of time when I was doing COVID, but I was also I was getting really interested in cooking and staying healthy and exercising and all those things. So I just thought I'd start a social media account where I was sharing what I was doing. And then lifestyle tips and stuff like that. I've always been interested in that. So I was just sharing some of that on Instagram. So I made a profile. And for a bit, I felt like really seen because, you know, people were like congratulating me for it. And they were saying, wow, you're so motivated during COVID. And I feel so bad. And it was giving me like a boost of confidence that, you know, people were thinking I was cool. And like, I just didn't realize, I mean, I think I was feeling good as well, but I was also getting this like extra, what do you call it? Like reassurance from Instagram that I was like doing well in life because, you know, people were reaching out to me and like recognizing me. I mean, it's not a big level. Kathmandu is a really small city, so it wasn't like on a huge scale, but and when I stopped doing that, I had like a whole kind of collapse in my self-confidence because I wasn't getting that extra like stimulation from the outside world, or like, you know, people weren't reaching out to me because I was not seen anymore. I wasn't posting anymore. So, and I do that to people too. Like I only think about reaching out to people who I see on social media doing things. Like I rarely think about people that probably don't have it, you know. It's like very, I don't know, I have to force myself to be like, okay, who's not on social media and I should reach out to, like I think that's so.
But I think that at the same time, the fact that you're not posting anymore on your main or platform that you had, it brings a lot of pressure to post because you feel like people are waiting for your post and whatever. Because I mean, I had a page as well, and I like talk about sexual health. And then I had like 2,000 followers, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we're missing your thingy or your story or whatever." And I felt a lot of pressure. I didn't want to do it anymore. Like I felt seen, but at the same time I felt pressure. Like all the information that I give, they're gonna take it as truth, or they see
So
me
you
as.
felt the sort of responsibility, it gave you an elevated sense of responsibility and importance, but with that pressure.
Yeah, it comes pressure. It comes, I guess, sort of like with power comes responsibility kind of thing. That it's that feeling that, oh, now I have to do this. And before it was a hobby, and now there's people that are waiting for this. Yeah.
And then after there's another bad side that is about the cancel culture.
Yeah.
Like whenever you post some opinions on some, maybe some people just, you know, like they come really aggressively because it's social medias. You have an identity, the inside, but outside you are another person.
Yeah.
So everything is allowed.
Yeah.
Whereas
So in fact, there's also this constant impact on your mood and a kind of ebb and flow of your identity as it relates to the exposure that you have to the outside world and the feedback that you get from the outside world. It's constantly impacting your sense of responsibility, your sense of power, your sense of self-worth, that type of thing. So I actually was kind of interested in whether what kinds of stereotypes actually stand out for you in social media, in the algorithms that you get, or what you get. What kind of stereotypes are standing out for you?
It depends. I think it changes with time for me. Right now, it's like somatic healing techniques for me. I see that so it's like somatic healing techniques. I'm like, there are so many somatic healing practitioners. I had no idea. Turns out it's just I'm just being fed all of this because I looked at it constantly for maybe a week or two, and now that's all I get. And my sister is always looking at dog videos and sending me 5 a day because that's all she's fed, because that's what she looks at. So, but I don't know what you guys are
well, I don't
getting.
see
All right.
What about you, Sarah? What kinds of stereotypes do you see?
Yeah, I'm into crocheting. So there's a lot of crocheting people now, and then I follow them, and
So,
you get a lot of
does that give you a sense of community? The fact that, you're getting these constant posts that are kind of related to a topic area or a subject area, and it kind of makes you stay in that cocoon of a community? Or
I don't know if it's a sense of community, like if the algorithm gives you a sense of community. But let's say during COVID, I opened a yoga where I would just like do yoga poses, and I made like friends from there. I met my friend from my yoga page online like a week ago. Well, not a week ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating that I just made it to have a community because I didn't know anyone in Ecuador that did yoga. And that gave me a sense of community. There were people from like Africa and like Europe and whatever. And I was like in South America doing this. And that gave me a sense of community. So in some kind of way, if you're in a niche hobby or whatever, maybe it's not niche, yoga is not niche, but at the time I didn't know anyone. So it did give me a sense of community. And like your friends, like us, we have been all over the place and we have lived in different places. You're not in touch with your friends anymore, and it's really nice to see them on the stories. It makes you feel like you're close to them even though you may not be that much.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I don't close my Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also like sometimes when I post, it's like, okay, I want to like, I hope my friends are like keeping up, as in like, I don't talk to them, but I don't realize, but when people you see after a long time say, oh, I know what you've been doing, and like that looks good, it like makes you feel good as well that people are being able to keep up with your life and also do with others. Although, yeah.
so,
People who are on Instagram.
Yeah.
so it's actually interesting. You did say something about the fact that what's out there in the world isn't necessarily what's presented on social media, because not everybody's on social media, not everybody presents themselves on social media. Do you think that the images that are presented are the reality of the world? What do you think is missing? Who is represented? Do you think who is missing in what you see in social media? Do you think? Can you think about, it's kind of a backward question, but like, who do you think is missing?
I feel that there's a lot of people with radical ideas, or may not be radical in the sort of societal era that we live now, that everyone has to be on their phones and like looking at different apps and whatever. So people that realize that we are like a source of consumption. Like at the end of the day, we don't pay for Instagram. They are consuming us. We are, they take our information and put it in somewhere else, and they take money from our information. So I feel like if people realize that, they may not be, they may not, how do you say that, be in social media because they don't want to be they don't want to be consumed by corporations and whatever. And I'm aware of that, but I feel that I'm just so
Your identity is vested in that social media, in the sense of how you consume and what you read, and that interaction is important for you.
Yeah, the interaction is important for me. I delete my Instagram once or twice a day, and then I re-download it every day.
Really?
Yes,
No
because
way.
I'm like, I hate it. I hate that I'm just so obsessed with it. But I keep deleting it because I know that they are consuming me, and I don't want to be the source of consumption by corporations and whatever. And I'm like, I have this constant struggle of, but I want to see my friends, but it's free.
Yeah.
What about you, Navya? Who do you think is not represented or is missing?
I think I mean a lot of people. So for me, honestly, I think Facebook right now, like a lot of older people are using, and a lot of younger people are using Instagram. So I think on Instagram, I'm missing just lives of people who are like maybe over 30, 35, because it's so like young, and especially TikTok is very young as well, but I don't use it. But I think that's missing from Instagram, and maybe Facebook is kind of more, you see more of like people of all ages. But also like And honestly, anything that's not like the algorithm is not serving you is missing. Like for me, I don't really see, I don't know.
Trump supporters.
Yeah, I don't see, I only see people see things that I'm like,
Yeah.
constantly following. And honestly, it's not great because it's really shaping my thought process. And, it stays in your subconscious when I look at my posts, and I'm like thinking about things like 5 hours later, I've checked, I'm like, oh, that person is, I'm like, I don't know. It's so I'm missing, I think a lot of representation is missing of like all communities. I think it is very like white, like stuff that's like very highly followed is like, I think racially it's like not as diverse maybe as it should be.
Is it very American?
Yeah, I think so. Very American. Like mine is. But that's probably because I live there and it's kind of feeding me like American posts. But yeah, I think a lot is.
What about you,
A lot of the non-pretty stuff is missing, maybe.
Yeah. What about you, Fei Fang? You're not that much on Facebook or Instagram or any of that. Do you feel you're not represented, or do you feel that somebody in your demographics isn't represented? And how would you describe that in the sense that you describe yourself identity-wise?
Well, that's a really good question. Like, I think I grow in between two different cultures, like you too. And the thing is that it's kind of difficult for me to get identify either in the Chinese culture or even in Spanish culture because I'm a mix. So there are not so many people who are just in the mixed culture that are just posting things that and some issues that I have. Like sometimes I see some issues, but my friends don't think it's a racism. Like how do you call it? Micro racism. And I said, I think this is race. For me, it's racism. But for other people, like whenever I have a conversation, a lot of people, they say, no, this is not. And so no, it doesn't represent me. And that's why I don't follow them. And I'm not a market.
So you don't feel you identify with what you might see on social media because it doesn't represent who you are.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting. So I actually wanted to ask another question, which is an interesting question that I think gets asked all the time, is to what extent does social media influence your sense of body image? And I think, Sarah, you had an interesting comment when we asked this question before. Do you recall?
Well, I remember I talked about the Kardashians, but I don't exactly remember what I said. I have a interesting dilemma with them. I think after our conversation, I was like thinking about it because I have a curvy body, and of course they have a curvy body, and I really dislike them in some kind of way mainly because they're making me think that my waist has to be as small as them because we're kind of the same height, we're very short, so I should have a body similar to them because I'm curvy, but their waist is very small. And then but at the same time, I feel like before them, curvy bodies were not as appreciative as they are today. It was like, oh, very skinny, like very, very skinny, and like no boobs or nothing like that. And that was like the model, but then you changed the model, and now everyone wants curvy body. And a part of me is like, well, I have a curvy body, so I feel good. But then the reality is that, well, the people that don't have a curvy body, then they don't feel good because they created a new stereotype standard of what it should be, like the ideal like beauty. So I really dislike them, but they have so much power in social media and people look at them so much that they're going really skinny, they reduce their boobs, they reduce their bum, and now they're going back to like really, really skinny, and that's the stereotype. Yeah, and that's the beauty now.
Standard, yeah.
So it's very frustrating to see how much power they have.
Yeah.
And how it has made me feel, and I'm sure many other people have felt.
I was wondering also if those people are also oppressed by the system at the end of the day, because you know they
Yes.
have to sell too.
Yeah.
So their body is the marketing they have. So maybe today they have to be curvy and tomorrow they have to be thinner. But the thing is that, do they really want to do those process, or is it just to sell and resell and remarket things?
Mhm. So it's interesting, you're talking about actually the influence of social media has a big impact on yourself and your sense of shape, but it's a constant iterative process of what marketing people want and what your products you're selling and what the ebb and flow is, and that these trends are changing, and it gives you anxiety and pressure with regards to how you feel, because it's changing all the time with your self-identity and self-acceptance about your body, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So
Also,
go ahead,
I
Navya.
also want to add that not just about my body image, but about like my just like in general, like how I feel about myself in regards to my like motivation to like stay fit or something. Like I can see when I'm looking at a lot of like yoga videos or something, I'm always like punishing myself in my head, saying that, oh my God, why don't I do this? Like I could look like them if I just tried for like 3 months. It's like I tried to stay active, but I'm like, oh my God, I've been so bad. Like, you know, for these months, I could have looked like that, and I can look like that. And it's always like a kind of race to, you know, look like that. Whereas, you know, you might never look like that because you don't have a body shape like that, or you don't need to look like that. And you're like, I know I'm totally okay in how I feel, but like, I know there's like this subconscious image of like, I need to look like that. And it's been guided by like some of the images I think I see on social media. And not just me as an individual, it's in comparison to the rest of the world, like how I look, you know.
Right, that's interesting. So actually, as public health specialist, which is kind of interesting, do you think there's competing messages on health as opposed to what you look like? So what the Kardashians say, and then what health experts say about heart healthy, and do you think there's like cross messaging? Do you think one is more comforting than the other with regards to feeling well about yourself?
Well, I'm not sure if I understood your question correctly, but I follow a lot of body positivity pages on Instagram. I don't follow the Kardashians.
Yeah.
I don't follow them.
To
But
make the point.
yeah, but so I feel like I follow a lot of nutritionists and body positivity and like vegan diet, or that's mainly what I eat. But what the way they think about body, many of the influencers that I follow are not based on BMIs. So if I think about doctors or medicine, they may be more into like BMI and numerical base to talk about health. And the influencers that I follow may not see health in that way. So I'm influenced by that because I also don't see it in that way. But I don't know, maybe that's not the case for everyone.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I actually want to know whether you feel you can present your authentic self in social media. Do you feel like when you post, you can present your authentic self?
Not at all.
Yeah, I think I like struggles to like, sometimes I feel like sometimes I'll post something and I'll be like, that doesn't look like how I want to portray myself. Like if I post a selfie, I'll be like, oh, I'm not someone who posts a selfie. Like that's not me, you know? So I like remove that because I think I'm constantly trying to like also like have an image of myself on social media, even though I'm not consciously trying to do it. I can see when it feels like that's not me, you know? So I think that there's that effort to be an authentic self on social media, but like I don't think people looking at my social media will know what kind of a person I am fully, although they might have an idea of my interests and my hobbies, but yeah.
How about you, Sarah?
No, yeah, I agree.
But you're always in the social medias, you're always selling one image. I think it's
Yeah.
not like life and people, personalities are really complex.
Yeah.
And in social media, you just are body positive things, or maybe you
Yeah.
focus just on one thing,
Yeah.
not so many on the complexity.
Right.
So you think that people who are consuming you as a person through social media only get one dimension? They don't actually get the full dimension of the person.
One
Yeah.
or two, but
Yeah.
not so much.
But I think there's right now a lot of kind of a trend on Instagram to be super authentic and be open about your issues and stuff, because obviously when a lot of people post like really happy things and travel stuff and fitness stuff, and then they open up that, you know, actually I'm like having mental health issues and I'm not super happy right now. And I think there's a push right now to be, not a push, but like people really appreciate that sort of like forthcomingness and like openness on social media now. I think these days more than before, because I think there's but I don't know, I think that's I don't know, that's, I think people are trying to be more and more authentic, and also because people more realize now the effect of social media on young kids and on mental health. So I think people who have a lot of followers now try to be like more open about their issues and stuff on social media. So maybe there is like a general push in being like more authentic now. But yeah, I think it's not perfect for sure. I think there's still like inauthenticity in social media.
So it's interesting with regards to the one dimensionality or the authenticity is like, can it allow you to own your own narrative? Do you feel like you can own your own narrative by being somebody who consumes social media? Do you feel you have power to control your own narrative out there?
I think yes and no. I think there is so much power in social media. Like you can really depending on, you know, the subject matter and your number of followers, I think you can really kind of, if you really put a lot of work into it, know the algorithm and work to kind of manipulate the platform, I think you can be really powerful. Like you can share a lot of things, and I think there are times when I'm tearing up because something's so powerful and touching for me on social media. So it definitely has a lot of power. But it also has power to really break someone's image, like really badly. Like I know some people, like if, let's say, just because a lot of people are on social media and they support one person's stance on someone, it can break their image on social media and like forget about all the other things about them and just have that social media image of them, like the cancel culture that you were talking about. Like you can really break someone's you know, self-worth in a way through, because of social media and how powerful it can be in, like, you know, convincing the world that that person is a bad person when you don't really know, have a lot of evidence or truth, or I don't know. Yes.
So this has been a really fascinating conversation, and I wanted to know if each of you could give the listeners a piece of advice on how to use social media to ensure that we are well in our identity and in the way we evolve in our dynamic identity. I'll let you think about a piece of advice that you could give to listeners.
I would say that open up conversation like that, like this one, I think it's useful in the, like, it doesn't have to be from the same age, you have a different perspective, but open up the conversation. It's really important to have a reflection of it, of something that we do automatically because we have it all in our phones.
Right.
I agree. And like we have had conversations about how social media has made us feel, or what do we see in our friends, and then maybe we realize that the life is not like that, you know. And also just I feel like personally I waste a lot of my time looking at social media rather than learning a new hobby. So that's a New Year's resolution to put more effort into that, because I know I'm very artsy, and I feel that I forget to do the things that I love and enjoy because as Navia said, it's just easier to go to your phone and like, oh yeah, this is relaxing, instead of like, oh, let's do crochet and yeah.
How about you, Navya? What's your piece of advice?
I think my advice is something I think I've learned recently about social media is like I've said before, the world is not social media, to always remind yourself that people exist outside of this bubble of social media, and it's and also to not do something just because it's on social media, but to always kind of evaluate why you do something before before posting it on social media, and also to practice not to post things on social media and see how you feel about doing things, because sometimes we're too carried away by doing things that look good or are a good image or people will like. So
Boost our ego, like
yeah,
an
boost our ego. Yeah, like just to do things, just to have fun and not feel the pressure when you're at a party to post that you're having fun, just to like remind yourself that I can have fun and I don't need to post it on social media. Like it's still a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on this identity project. And well, yeah, speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was fun.